all of the states have received funds under this American Relief Plan. And in doing so, there were specific allocations for the early childhood space. In fact, because of the money that was left over from our CARES Relief Fund, that we're looking at an investment of $1.4 billion. 700 of that is intended to stabilize the early childhood workforce. This is not only important for the children who are accessing these programs, but clearly it's become very evident to the larger community that is also important for our economy in order for folks who have families who have young children to be able to go back to work and to school. And so what does that mean? A number of things. So earlier this week, in fact, one of the uses for those funds was announced by the governor in terms of her plan to expand Great Start Readiness to ensure all eligible children have access. And Great Start Readiness is our state-run program for 4-year-olds. Right now, only 66% of eligible children statewide can receive a GSRP, and that leaves a gap of around 22,000 children who are eligible who can't participate if they wanted to. So the governor's proposal included a funding increase to the number of slots so that they're eventually getting to 90% of eligible children. And this also included $50 million in those federal funds to support expansion, including more classrooms, support to educators, transportation, and other supports. So our Mayor Duggan joined her in that announcement because that expansion also means 1,500 additional 4-year-old seats for the city of Detroit, what he has been pushing for the last couple of years as universal preschool. This investment is funded by those American Rescue dollars to start in transition, but afterwards will be maintained by a school aid fund. So when we think about the rest of the money, which was intended a large portion for stabilization of the workforce, as advocates, because even with the governor's recommendations, it still has to get passed through the legislature, right? So we need to continue to advocate that they put this to plan. But the rest of the money meant to stabilize, as advocates, we've been asking that it does just that. We know that infant toddlers are a huge gap in service for our community. So I've asked that the base grants in the previous rounds, there were rounds of grants that went out to educators directly so that they could use to support their program, whether it was buying PPE supplies, making sure that they had equipment that was necessary. They could use it for rent. It was really meant to stabilize. This one is just as broad. We want to make sure that those programs who want and can serve infant toddlers are doing that, and they're given additional money over and above and beyond the other age groups. We also believe that there's an opportunity to make sure that these rounds of grants are delivered much more equitably than before. In the last round, there were programs who were left out, our home-based programs in particular. So here, those programs, which is really high in the city of Detroit, who are serving children families who are receiving subsidy, children who have special needs. We want to make sure that the opportunity bonuses for those programs is included, and that we're addressing what we know are childcare deserts. There are 10 major high need neighborhoods in the city of Detroit where there is little to no childcare. And because transportation is also an issue, access becomes an issue for those families.
Denise, can I ask about that? Because that was one of the questions that we had with respect to centers, right? The pandemic hit many of those, particularly home-based centers, hard. Can you give us a sense of what numbers we're looking at? I mean, how many centers do you estimate are percentage-wise open today versus what was open 2 years ago before the pandemic?
Yeah, good question. We know that our open rate, and mind you, this is self-reported, but the self-reported open rate is at 60%, and that's after the COVID. At the height of COVID, clearly it was way low. It was below 40%. So we have gone up.
And how do parents find out what centers and providers are open and accepting students?
There are a number of resources. Clearly, you could go to greatstarttoquality.org. United Way also has Connect for Care. So those sources are available. The Office of Early Learning through the Commission also has a platform, Detroit Early Learning. So any of those spaces, you can search for care. You can see if that program is open. Again, there would be a self-report, but they should have reported open or closed. There'll be additional information that Hope Starts Here will be pushing out alongside its partners, particularly during the summer. You talked a little bit about this and making sure that we're helping those children who are rising kindergartners and make sure that those transition points along the way are supported. So that transition from home to early, from early to kindergarten. There'll be information that you'll see at our bus stops, at mogul stations, really providing information so that our children are ready, set, and can go forward in being successful. And we'll couple that with information to get into hands of families. I think most important right now, as you've indicated, is to make sure that our legislator acts on the funds that are here and gets it into the hands of programs so that they can stabilize and grow.
Great. And in the last minute or two that we have here, can you share with us, you mentioned the rising kindergartners. What are you hearing about kindergarten? There were many families and many students who didn't elect to go to kindergarten this past year from various reasons. What are you hearing about those, 5 to 6 year olds? Are they heading off to first grade? Are they starting in kindergarten, and is it a mix? How are parents making that decision?
It is a mix. It is definitely a mix. We know that there'll need to be additional supports, which is why, some of our Head Starts and our early childhood programs are even providing those summer supports to those rising kindergartners. In the event that they do not go on, they have this year that they can, in some cases, stay with those programs. But we want to make sure that they are prepared either way. Families are choosing to just skip over kindergarten. If you all don't know, Michigan does not mandate kindergarten. And so there has always been that. We want this campaign that we're pushing out this summer to really elevate the importance of all of those years so that children can be successful and we don't see the things that have been showing up for our children around reading and math proficiency at 3rd grade. Those early years are important, and we want to make sure that children get there and that they're ready.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.